Welcome to Learn with Lili. Today we are starting with your Climb with Cornerstone Grammar and Composition Skills for Class 4 students, Chapter 17. And the name of the chapter is Tenses, Simple Present and Simple Past. Time and tense. Read the sentences given below and do as directed. One has been done for you. If some action happened before now, put the number of that sentence in the circle under past on the timeline below. So this is the timeline. We have the past and the present one. And if some action is happening at the present moment or happens every day, put the number of that sentence in the circle under present. So sentence number 1, we ate pizza for dinner yesterday. It is past. 2, father reads the newspaper. It is present. 3, we played football last Sunday. It is past. 4, the cat drank up all the milk yesterday. It is past. 5, Kavita practices the sitar every day. It is present. And the last one, the students study English every day. This is also present sentence. Now, read these sentences. Yesterday, I walked across the fields. I walk across the fields every day. You will notice that the form of the verb walk changes in these sentences. The verb walk not only expresses an action, but it also tells us the time of action. We use the future tense to talk about actions that will happen later. The tense of a verb tells us when the action happens. We will learn about present tense and past tense now. Simple present tense. Read these sentences. He comes to school by bus. Regular action. She likes ice cream. Janaki dances gracefully. Regular action. In these sentences, the verbs tell us whether an action happens regularly or talks about people in general. These verbs are said to be in the simple present tense. We use the simple present tense to show that an action happens regularly or often. We use words like always, usually, sometimes, generally, often, or every day to speak about such actions. For example, Neha always speaks politely. I often help my mother to make breakfast. I take my pet for a walk every day. So as you can see, these words always, often, and every day will show you about simple present tense. Now, we also use the simple present tense to talk about generally accepted truths or facts. For example, the sun rises in the east. Monkeys love bananas. The earth revolves around the sun. So these are some facts and truths. Verb forms in the simple present tense. We use the simple form of the verb with the pronouns I, we, you, and they. Look at these examples. I sing well. We play in the park. You help Danish with his homework. They run very fast. We use the S form of the verb with singular nouns, the pronouns he, she, and it, or in case of singular subject. For example, she sings very well. Bina runs every morning. The tortoise moves very slowly. Verbs ending with ch, sh, x, and o usually take an es when used with singular nouns and the pronouns he, she, and it. For example, my father reaches his office early. The verb is reach. So because it is ending in ch, we will add es to it. The next one, he brushes his teeth twice a day. Brush goes to brushes. And she washes the clothes in the evening. For verbs ending with y, we drop the y and add an I and es when we use them with the pronouns he, she, and it. And singular nouns. For example, she always tries hard. Verb was try, the y will drop, and instead of that, ies will come. A porter carries heavy loads. Carries. My little brother cries a lot. For some verbs that end in y but have a vowel before them, we just add an s when we use them with he, she, and it and singular nouns. For example, he stays with his aunt because it is vowel before y, so we cannot drop the y and put ies, we will just add an s. The baby enjoys music because o is vowel, so we will just add s. Now practice time. A. Now complete these sentences with the correct present tense form of the verb in the brackets. Number 1. The elephant uses its trunk to pick up things. Number 2. The boat ferries people to that island. Number 3. Cats give birth to many kittens at a time. 4. The old scientist makes wonderful toys. And 5. She tidies up the room every day. Number 6. The dog obeys his master's orders. 7. He does his homework regularly. 8. These pencils belong to Simon. 9. She usually finishes her homework by 5 o'clock. 10. Whenever the dog gets a bone, he buries it in the garden. Now the next one, B. Use each subject and verb in the table to make a sentence in the simple present tense. One has been done for you. Number 1, the dog barks at stranger. Number 2, my mother goes to the market. Number 3, our neighbor bakes tasty cakes. 4, my aunt visits the hospital weekly. 5, the guard watches the prisoner. And 6, Ankit studies 2 hours in the afternoon. Let us do a quick revision with the help of this table. The first one has been done for you. So here you have the pronouns, here you have the simple form of verb, and here the verb form in present tense. I, we, you, they. We will use the simple form of verb sing and work, and the present will be sing and work. But for he, she, and it, sing and work will become sings, works, make and arrive. We'll just add s to them for he, she, and it, and also study and fly. We will drop the y's and we will add ies to them. So studies and flies. He, she, it again for fix and push, fixes and pushes. We will add es. And play and pray. We will just add s because it has a vowel before the y. Now learn about simple past tense. Read these sentences carefully. What is common to the highlighted word? Hint. When did these actions happen? I walked to the school yesterday. They played football last week. My brother and sister watched a film last night. The verbs in these sentences tell us that the actions happened sometime before now, that is, in the past. Verbs that tell us about actions that happened in the past are in the simple past tense. Verb forms in the simple past tense. Here are some of the ways in which we change verbs into the simple past tense. We usually add ed to most verbs to change their forms. For example, she opened the door for the guests. They laughed at his jokes. The kitten looked around for its mother. For words that end in e, we usually add d. For example, they closed the gates at 10 p.m. We will just add d. We lived in that house 10 years ago. The verb is live, so we will just add a d. People queued outside the counters. We will just add d. For verbs with a single syllable, we have to double the last letter and add ed. For example, the thief grabbed her bag. She slammed the door. We will double the last letter, and the teacher pinned the notice on the board. Notice that these verbs have a single syllable. They end with a consonant preceded by a vowel. Grab and slam. For verbs that end in y, we change the y to I and add ed. For example, the porter carried the heavy load on his shoulders. Because the verb is carry, so the y will change into ied. My little brother cried a lot. She tried hard to get the job. Some verbs do not follow any of the above rules. They change completely when used in the past tense. Now, for example, my mother bought groceries from the store. The verb was buy. The farmer kept the chicken in the coop. I went with her to the museum. The verb go. A few verbs do not change their forms at all when used in the past tense. For example, the fisherman cast his net in the sea. This dress cost 1,000 rupees. I put the clothes in the cupboard. He hurt his leg. Verbs that do not change into the simple past forms by adding d, ed, or ied are called irregular verbs. So the verbs cast, cost, put, and hurt are irregular verbs. Now practice time. D. Place these verbs in the simple past tense in the correct columns. So verb plus ed will come jumped, rushed, and walked. Verb plus d, tied, raised, tickled, agreed, chased. Verb double the last letter plus ed, hopped, feigned, hissed, wagged, skipped, nodded. And verb plus ied is hurried. The next practice. E. Tick the correct form of the verbs in these sentences. Number 1. We sold our car. Number 2. I heard a noise. Number 3. The man lost his way. Number 4. He met his old school friends. Number 5. I wrote a letter to my friend. Number 6. The boys found treasure in the cave. Number 7. Flowers grew in the garden in spring. Number 8. The glass vase fell off the table and broke into pieces. So all these verbs are known as irregular verbs. Now, F. Choose the correct verb. Number 1. I bought these shoes yesterday. They cost 500 rupees. 2. Sheena always carries her water bottle when she goes out. 3. Sometimes she goes swimming in the evening. 4. Vinita came home and kept her purse on the table. 5. Every night I wake up and hear that funny noise. 6. She brought her new book to school and misplaced it. G. Fill in the blanks with the correct form of the verbs in the box. Number 1. She burned her hand while ironing. 2. He looked around everywhere but could not find the puppy. 3. The child lost his toy in the fair and started crying. 4. The man argues with the policeman. 5. Timmy runs to the door every time the bell rang. 6. Pradeep writes to his mother at least once a week. 7. They repaired the broken window after a long time. 8. Karan rushed as fast as he could when he heard the bell. Now challenge time. Rewrite the story after changing the highlighted verbs into the past tense. Little Red Riding Hood is the story of a brave girl. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother gave her a lovely lemon pie to take to her grandmother. Her grandmother lived alone in a cottage in the middle of the forest. When Red Riding Hood reached the cottage, she found the door open. She knocked at the door and cried, "Grandma, may I come in?" Her grandma said, "Come in, my dear." Little Red Riding Hood thought her grandmother sounded different. When she went inside, she was surprised. Her grandma looked different too. She knew that the person in the bed was not her grandmother. The person in the bed was the big bad wolf. Just then, Grandma heard Little Red Riding Hood's voice. She shouted loudly to warn Little Red Riding Hood. A woodcutter heard her cries and rushed to the cottage. He killed the wolf. Grandma was inside the cupboard. She came out of the cupboard and took her granddaughter in her arms. They thanked the woodcutter and offered him some pie. Now recap. The tense of a verb tells us when the action happens. The simple present tense is used for an action that is done regularly and for expressing facts. The simple past tense is used for an action that was done in the past. So, if you enjoyed my video, please do like, share, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. God bless you all.